in world football. I mean...
So then I said to Mrs. Claus, yo, I'll unwrap you in a second. Oh, Jesus, Mayday, flipping heck, where are we gonna fall to? Oh no, anywhere but there, lads. Birmingham, of all the places to land, just hopefully I don't have to hear the accent.
Hello. Hang on, mate. Fancy seeing you here.
Yo guys, it is your boy Newman here, and you are watching FTW. This is of course the series where I bring to you the best and more frequently the worst of what football has to offer during the last 7 days. But what's been kicking off in the world this week? Well, it's holiday season and families across the world are celebrating Christmas. It's time to interact with cousins that you haven't seen in the last 6 years, sit down at the dinner table and realise that your auntie hasn't got pigs in blankets.
Whoever's involved in this, stop it.
I personally wasn't impressed at all with my 17th Links Africa set, but Santa himself was more pleased after 6.2 million glasses of milk this year. Speaking of gifts, and there were crazy rushes for KSI and Logan's energy drink this week. No one's been this early to a prime since Michael Owen. Meanwhile, here was me having consumed 27 kilograms of food, passed out on the floor, then realising there's Boxing Day football. Onto the football though now, and did you know the Boxing Day results in 1963? Ladies and gentlemen, Premier League football is back.
It's match day.
And we kick things off with Carabao Cup football. Wait, hang on a second. The glucose game saw Liverpool take on Manchester City in yet another classic between the two sides, with City victorious 3-2 in the end. After not qualifying for the World Cup with Norway, we've gone a month without Erling Haaland scoring. He's literally scored already, boy. However, at the other end, it wasn't such a productive day for Darwin Nunez, who could have won the game for Liverpool if not for a series of misses. He shakes his head after each miss to make it seem like it was close. Damn it, I thought that was in, bro. My friend, it went out for a throw-in during a scrap with Ilkay Gundogan, and he even missed a push, for God's sake. This guy would be useless as a tourist. If he went to play darts at the pub, he's getting an assault charge, and he'd be a bit of a clingy boyfriend too. Babes, I miss you. Darwin, it's been 20 minutes. I can't help but miss things, man. Jurgen Klopp thought that Erling's early chance was offside here, so this is why he needs those glasses. We may well be out of the EFL Cup, but honestly, Harvey Elliott doesn't seem to care. As for Man City though, when they kept their winning form up into the first Premier League game back with a 3-1 win over Leeds. Erling Haaland was upset going into this one, knowing he was about to score 7 past the team of his birth, and came into the game with an interesting new hairstyle. The guy was looking different on the close-up. He morphed into the Bournemouth badge from behind. Meanwhile, Liam Cooper had a strategy in 1v1s to stop him. He did, of course, inevitably score a brace in the second half. Poor Scott Carson's been dealing with this guy's strikes alone in training during the World Cup. Here we have Julian Alvarez talking about Man City's coaches after a real World Cup and being turned down the opportunity of more Man City game time.
I felt betrayed.
Honestly, Erling Haaland's actually a joke. It's so unfair. There was chaos down on the touchline as Pep Guardiola kicked a ball out of frustration, then accidentally hit the Leeds bench. A pitchside camera caught the interest of Kyle Walker, who proceeded to smash it. He looks like a dad who's about to be impressed by me switching the TV to HDMI too. Jack Grealish was definitely still hungover in the first half. Here we have him arriving before kickoff, but then grabbed 2 assists in the second. I wonder what changed at the break. Jack, for fuck's sake, just watch this lap. Meanwhile, Bernardo Silva was out on the town after the win instead. Bernardo. Former Leeds man Kalvin Phillips experienced his first return to Ellen Road at this one, but he's been in the news for different reasons this week, after he apparently came back from the Qatar World Cup overweight. Yet Pep Guardiola said he wasn't impressed with the midfielder's condition. This guy said he'd had a BBL.
Thicker than a bowl of oatmeal?
Hey.
Leeds fans took the opportunity to create a chant about him, and when Kalvin smiled whilst warming up down on the touchline, they then reverted back to loving him again. Here we have Mason Mount's reaction to seeing him at the England camp out in Qatar.
Look at the size of that fucker.
I can't blame him, man. He just couldn't help himself after eating food at Man City's multi-million-pound canteen. Here we have a City chef explaining to his boss why there's no food after Kalvin ate 37 servings.
I've got nothing left. I've got nothing left.
We've got Luke Shaw seeing that the Man City midfielder's stolen his diet plans.
No one get angry with all... Will you leave us again?
Poor Poor Kalvin was fuming when he realised there was no Five Guys in Qatar. To be fair, ask for Five Guys out there and you're probably going to jail. Pep did clear up the situation though, saying that Kalvin in fact had the perfect body and it was in fact very sexy.
Today I feel gay.
Elsewhere and over at Brentford, they claimed a point versus Tottenham with a 2-2 draw, but had been 2-0 up in this one. Vitaly Janel opened the scoring with Ivan Toney making it 2, but Tottenham came back from behind again through Harry Kane and Højbjerg. Tottenham were looking very ordinary in the first half, I'll be honest. Antonio Conte needed his best centre-back to return and called Christian Romero at half-time. Here we have him pretending to care about the situation from a Buenos Aires club. Brentford fans brought banners and chants to the table saying that Harry Kane had let the country down after his World Cup miss versus France, but he would get his revenge with a goal versus the Bees here. I do agree with them though in thinking that Ivan Toney would have scored it. Instead, he was running back to the changing room to cash out an accurate 2-2. Christian Norgard can be seen here being questioned by the FA over why he bet his life savings on a Toney goal here.
Days or whatever they call it, they use now, I don't know, they've more gone away from days. I'm not saying I'm a bad
Here we have Ivan being told he'd scored, but his bet on a brace hadn't come in.
You don't seem that happy that you've won.
More than you believe. More than you believe, I'm happy.
Meanwhile, in the 90th minute of the game, and he had a chance from the penalty spot to win 3-2, but he's already put a 2-2 scoreline into his acca. So, can I just say the irony, by the way, of Ivan Toney being hounded about his betting history, whilst the club that he plays for are sponsored by a betting company. Back at Liverpool now, and after a disappointing return to club football, we claimed the league victory versus Aston Villa with 3-1 the result at full time. It was a great result, and I don't mean to make it all about him, but Darwin Nunez misses again were ridiculous. Have we actually bought the Uruguayan Andy Carroll, the Samba Cinema Pongo? He gets into great positions, and to be honest, his record this season is pretty decent. But this Don is just funny to watch, honestly. The price that we paid for him was solely for entertainment purposes. You should have to pay a subscription fee to watch this man. Jurgen Klopp asked him at half-time whether he was actually going to finish any of his chances at all.
Oh, well, I mean, I was close to finishing. But then, you know, it's a matter of economics. I couldn't.
Whatever Jack Grealish said to Miguel Almiron, please say it to Darwin Nunez. It wasn't much better at the back for Aston Villa, to be fair. Tyrone Mings is in a pickle whenever he's asked to do literally any defensive work whatsoever. He was definitely distracted trying to spell Bajcetic from the back of his shirt. Emiliano Martinez, a new World Cup winner of course, can't have been too impressed watching Villa here. He saw the result and accidentally missed his flight home. Here we have him after being quizzed on this by Unai Emery.
I have no knowledge of any of this. This is so bizarre.
Liverpool board watched 68 minutes of Darwin Nunez though and knew exactly what they needed to do.
Really nice.
Out of absolutely nowhere, and Liverpool have hijacked a deal for Cody Gakpo to sign the World Cup starlet for £37 million. PSV youngster had been linked with a move to United for months, but chose the Reds in the end. United reps were not too happy after having the rug pulled from under them over the festive period.
That wasn't very Christmassy.
This tweet from Trey has not aged very well at all. Neither of these YouTube compilations. Honestly, United fans have done our scouting for us, it's blessed. Here is Cody when he saw Erik ten Hag at PSV's training ground.
Sorry, you got the wrong guy.
Listen,
Hey,
son.
get the fuck away from me, dog.
It's going to get feisty between the two when he sees Eric at the end-of-year Dutch football dinner.
You can call me Baldy all like, don't bother me.
I didn't call you Baldy.
He gave a statement to United fans explaining the decision and why he didn't join the Red Devils.
I'll say this directly to Man United fans, just lower your expectations, man. You're not a decent club anymore. You're not going to challenge for the title. Just be happy, just embrace that.
Meanwhile, it's going to be interesting competition for Darwin Nunez, of course. He was upset and downbeat finding out he'd been replaced at the Christmas karaoke party.
Goodbye to the people who hated on me. Goodbye to the people who loved me.
Here we have the Uruguayan trying to impress Jurgen Klopp in his first training session back. Meanwhile, Klopp was there to welcome his new signing ahead of his first few training sessions at his new club. Hey yo, these jeans, I'm not entirely sure.
It's mad because like all I see is boot cuts.
Hopefully he'll settle in at the club very well. He's met most of the coaching staff you would imagine at this point. It's time for Trent & Co to show him a tour of the city.
You're gonna get the chopper on you, lad. Slow down, lad.
Get the tunes on, someone get the tunes.
Calm down, hit the right lane, slow down, slow right down, hit the left.
Over at league leaders Arsenal, and the Gunners beat West Ham United 3-1, but it wasn't always plain sailing after they went 1-0 down in the first half. Goals from Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli and Eddie Nketiah rescued them, but their biggest performance, Mohamed El Neni.
Being replaced by number 25, Mohamed El Neni.
he was special.
But after defeat, and West Ham captain Declan Rice was not too happy with his boss.
I'm sorry to say again, it's my mate.
He can also blame Lucas Fabianski, who was beaten far too easily at the near post for the Gabriel Martinelli goal. I knew I needed to zoom in on him a little bit closer. Here we have an alternate angle of the goal going in. Granit Xhaka was fed up with Lucas Paqueta kicking the ball away for a free kick and took matters into his own hands. Meanwhile, Arsene Wenger was at the stadium to watch this game and grabbed a very wholesome picture with his son, Saka. He'll have also been pleased with Eddie Nketiah, who turns into a different animal when all other striking options at the club are critically injured. Meanwhile, at Manchester United, and they won convincingly this week with a 3-0 victory over Nottingham Forest. There were confusing scenes before kickoff though, with a mystery name appearing on Manchester United's team sheet on the Premier League app, and the name Betinho appeared in the side's starting 11. Betinho? I didn't realise Ivan Toney had signed for United. It turns out he's actually a Portuguese striker playing over in their 3rd division and is ex of Sporting Lisbon. United fans are already getting shirts bought for the latest signing. Erik ten Hag is ready to bring him off the bench after 60 minutes. And here we have Betinho's reps when asked whether they'll be at Old Trafford despite literally being Portuguese farmers.
Do you care though? We will be there. PSG? We will be there. We will be there. Good luck.
One man that did play for United though is Jesse Lingard, who of course came up against his former side here. He received a standing ovation from United fans after being substituted off. He was back in the changing rooms gassed about United's victory. Forest were firmly beaten here, and their sporting director's going to be fuming realising he's got a green light 37 more deals in January. And there was Luke Shaw, of course, playing at centre-back. Luke Shaw ahead of Harry Maguire at centre-back is crazy. Harry must have been fuming about the situation and was caught going into Eric's office handing over Luke's Deliveroo order history as a reason not to start him. Eric wasn't impressed.
2 bloody pages with pictures on 1 page. What is that? What is that? You're taking the piss. Please leave.
At PSG, and they had a dramatic return to club football with a 2-1 win over Strasbourg thanks to a 96-minute Kylian Mbappe penalty. Neymar also received 2 yellow cards in 2 minutes in this one, with a second and of course a red card coming for a terrible dive. He wasn't too pleased though. Mbappe was not impressed with Neymar's red card and held a board meeting to get him out of there. Right, we're selling him. Any objections? Alright, easy, that's lunch. Stereotypical hard man Sergio Ramos was watching Neymar dive from the bench.
Stay on your feet! Stay on your feet!
PSG are making a hash of League On, man. I know they're 7 points clear, but you got Lens in second. Just give it to them instead, because PSG are going to end up with the most undeserved #1 since Lad Baby. When I spoke a lot about Neymar there would be no Neymar if it wasn't for legendary Brazilian footballer Pele, who unfortunately passed away yesterday at the age of 82. Been fighting a long battle through illness over the last few years, and honestly, his legacy for football will go on forever. Hundreds and hundreds of league goals in a time where the Brazilian league was the best in the world. 3 World Cups that define Brazil as the footballing nation that it is. His name and his legacy will transcend the sport forever, and the sheer amount of careers that he's inspired in the beautiful game will probably never be matched. The undisputed original greatest of all time. Elsewhere, back in the Premier League, and Chelsea beat Bournemouth 2-0. You gotta ask why Marc Cucurella was wearing odd boots. He had hair in his eyes when he was getting changed. Yeah, it makes sense now. Newcastle slapped Leicester 3-0. Miguel Almiron scored again and had words for Jack Grealish at full time.
It gets to the stage where I just think he's out of his depth, and you actually feel a little bit sorry for him, really. He should not be playing at this level.
James Maddison would honestly rather be back in Qatar than playing for Leicester, and he didn't even play in Qatar. After a last-minute loss to bottom-of-the-table Wolves, Everton boss Frank Lampard had a message to Toffees fans.
We want you, the fans at home and abroad, to support someone else.
Here we have him trying to spark conversation with Brendan Rodgers down at Job Centre.
How can you prefer Brannigan's roast beef and mustard over Monster Munch pickled onion?
And he'll be introducing Seamus Coleman down there as well, given the Irishman doesn't play anymore. To be fair, there was an extremely wholesome video of the right back this week, surprising a lifelong Everton fan by going to his house and just having a nice chat to him. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo Jr. has apparently now found himself a new club after his dad left Old Trafford. This kid found a new club before his father did, for God's sake. Losing to children. I thought that was only for Andrew Tate this week. Don't think he's gonna take this life lying down. He's already got shots for his son.
Done interview with Piers Morgan. £1 million, fines it's cool. Tell my accountant to sort that.
On the topic of Ronaldo though, and his wife brought him a car, a Rolls Royce for Christmas. Do you understand how sweet this is? Buying a car for an unemployed man. Over in Russia and Zenit St. Petersburg are apparently having to expand their trophy cabinet, something that their admin doesn't believe Tottenham are used to. It's a shithousery award, come on, it has to be. Shout out to Beth Mead, who won Sports Personality of the Year here in the UK. See, I've been telling you, all the best footballers in the world only have one working knee. Beth Mead, Miedema, FNG. Meanwhile, over at Brighton, and they beat a hapless Southampton 3-1. After posting on his girlfriend's Insta saying solely let's fuck on fantasy football, and he's out for personal reasons. Meanwhile, one Saints fan got an interesting secret Santa, which was a bunch of alcohol as well as a 3-1 bet for Brighton to beat the Saints, which of course came through. And this game is where we also find our first goal of the week, coming from none other than Solly March. A second strike comes from Australia, where Central Coast Mariners' Marco Tulio provided a spectacular lobbed effort here. And finally, over in Saudi Arabia, how about this from Hamad Al-Khuzani, who plucked the ball out of the air, flicked it over a defender, and casually and calmly placed it in the back of the net. Now, in France, and Lyon striker Alexander Lacazette sees everything on Twitter. At PSG, and Neymar had an intuitive way of trying to win the ball back during a training rondo by hiding his bib so that everyone else would give him the ball back. Olivier Giroud supposedly didn't give Australian centre-back Jason Cummings his shirt during the World Cup because despite having played in England for 10 years, he gave an excuse because he didn't want to swap shirts that he didn't speak English. Well, it turns out that was all a lie because instead he got Jackson Irvine's shirt and tweeted him asking him how his English was. Welsh midfielder Aaron Ramsey has not returned to OGC Nice after a tough World Cup with Wales. I mean, he didn't turn up for Wales either. Nice's manager must have been a little bit confused trying to do the register for their first session back.
Ron, where are you? Where is Ron right now? No Ron, huh?
In Italy, and Paul Pogba's causing a stir with holiday pictures he posted over on Instagram. If he does that any longer, and his knee's gonna give way, to be fair. But overall, like, the guy's had, like, as much as he hasn't played, a pretty stressful year with, you know, his brother trying to send him to prison and all that. Hopefully he returns actually playing for Juventus in the new year. Speaking of Juve, and Moise Kean provided one of the misses of the week. Oof, well, guess I better get back on the sleigh. Francesco Camara has been taking the Italian youth system by storm. The 14-year-old has now scored 485 goals in 89 games in Milan's academy, meaning he's averaging over 5 goals a game. Over in Turkey, and Dele Alli was booed by Besiktas fans as he was hauled off the pitch inside 40 minutes. His side were 2-0 down, and I guess having not played all that well, his boss decided to bring him off before half-time. People don't even know him for being Dele Alli, they know him for being whoever this is as boyfriend. Is this a desire and mentality issue? Because Dele Alli had all the natural ability and talent in the world. Jose Mourinho, of course, warned him in Spurs All or Nothing, and it's really sad to see this decline. In Argentina, and in the wake of their World Cup win, Lisandro Martinez and co have been out on the town for 4 days straight. 2 kids over there were gifted Emi Martinez goalkeeping kits for Christmas, and they're already getting well into character. Meanwhile, after multiple claims from media outlets in France that one of their goals shouldn't have stood, Argentinian fans have responded by creating a petition that has 250k signatures asking them to stop crying. Hello all, and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty. I think he's got a few questions he needs to ask his missus here. And that concludes The Beautiful Game. In Albania now, and at Tirana, a fan invaded the pitch, faked getting an injury, and acted as if he'd be carried off by stewards, only to then turn around and propose to his girlfriend who'd ran onto the pitch after him. It was clearly all planned by everyone at the stadium, but then his team lost. I mean, for crying out loud. Over in South Africa, and at the Phillies games, whilst 3-0 up, and in the 90th minute, Isi Thembiso, playing against Vanda, decided to mock their opponents by pretending to take a nap simultaneously to show how little they they cared about the end of the game. And in Turkey, their top scorers list is looking like the Premier League 13-14 season. Closer to home and at Brighton, we've got an unbelievable dive against Charlton here from Pervis Estupiñán. Firmly not a dive between Leicester and Wolves' under-19s, where a Leicester player will be out for 9 months after a horrific challenge from a Wolves player in a youth game. And this challenge was clearly premeditated in terms of trying to harm his opponent. I'm not going to give the name of the Wolves player because I don't want to encourage a pile-on, but he does have to take responsibility for his actions. And honestly, I want to see him banned for a significant period of time, at least a year. In lighter news and over at QPR,
2 multiplied by 10 plus 1, Romeo done.
We've got the greatest corner ever taken over at Crawley Town. Listen, if they signed a few more YouTubers, Chris MD's not doing this, that's all I'm saying. At Vietnam now, and we've got a penalty being given for a scrap happening off the pitch. As you can see, 2 players get together here. There's a bit of an altercation. Despite literally not being in the area because they're off the pitch, the referee decided to give a penalty to Vietnam the day before their game against Malaysia, and the referee could be seen posting this on his Facebook page saying Vietnam will win.
Bang, see you later, you go in prison.
Over in Switzerland, and Mario Balotelli's feeling festive. In Saudi Arabia now, and when a player goes down clutching his head, this is 500 IQ to win himself a corner. Al Ryan signed Japanese international Shogo Taniguchi this week and provided the worst announcement video in football this year, with generic Japanese stereotype shots and then a video of him missing a chance at the World Cup. Meanwhile, in Brunei, and we've got an unfortunate own goal here that even the box would be proud of. Now that it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for, because over in Romania, I mean, it's been one hell of a week for Romania in the news, after allegedly Andrew Tate was arrested in the country because he gave away his location, sending a message to Greta Thunberg that had a Romania pizza delivery company on it. But in the world of football, and there's the development that Moroccan goalkeeping hero Bunu had a trial with a Romanian side a few years ago. They decided not to keep him on. He's a World Cup semi-finalist. Their club got dissolved and now play in the 3rd division. Over in China, and speaking of teams that have fallen from grace, Guangzhou, a side that set the bar with Chinese Super League signings like Jackson Martinez, have now been relegated from the country's top flight. Over in Thailand, and we've got an absolute horror tackle coming in. In Laos, I have no idea how to pronounce that country, we've got a goalkeeping howler.
It's close down here, and Singapore with a chance.
In Iraq, and a slightly more unfortunate goal here, as a defender tries to clear the ball away and an unconventional block sees the ball loop in off the crossbar. In Bhutan, and shout out Transport United with a 12-1 victory here, transporting their opposition to the Gulag. Over in the Bahraini Premier Division, we've seen some pretty shocking misses this week. Here's another one to add to the collection.
Whoa, that got a goal! Oh!
But moving on to Indonesia this week now, and as you can see, that might not even be the worst miss of this last 7 days.
Oh, we saw something similar here. How has he missed that? What a chance there.
Maybe Darwin Nunez is from Indonesia, bro. A few weeks ago, I showed you the Saudi Women's Premier League. Well, 9 games into the league season, yes, just 9, Sama now sit on minus 100 goal difference with 0 points, unsurprisingly. And last week, I told you about a new Sergio Aguero emerging on the scene. Quite literally, his name is Sergio Aguero, playing for Malaysia. Well, this week, he even managed to grab himself a goal. Now that it's time for Still 0-0, and you guys know the score by now, this is a segment of the show where I bring to you the best of Sunday League and amateur football, and we head over to Merseyside now, where a challenge has gone in that one player is not too pleased about. His reaction is to go in for a header. Not sure that was the ball that you're meant to be heading though, sunshine. On to the weird stuff though now. How about the story of Estonian side Pärnu, who have survived relegation for a 2nd year in a row despite finishing in the relegation places because of financial problems for a team in their division. Yet they've been spared relegation because somebody else went bust and got relegated instead of them for a 2nd year in a row and a 3rd time in total. Former Moroccan legend Mustafa Hadji has been hit with a 5-year ban on coaching because he forged a coaching license. How do you even think that you're going to get away with that? Surely it becomes very evident very early. The lads were going to be going with a 6-3-7 formation today. What the fuck? You can't do that, boy. Over in Serie D in Italy, and my heart goes out to a club called Fasano, who are currently without a win in the league this season. Were 4-0 up in their most recent league game before capitulating in the final part of the game to lose 5-4. But there is, of course, the tragic news this week of Cody Fisher, a lower league footballer in Birmingham who was unfortunately killed in a Birmingham nightclub. A shocking scene that happened on Boxing Day. My heart goes out to his family and friends because, I mean, at a time like this of the year, that is just an awful thing to be happening to a 23-year-old. So down in the description, you'll find a GoFundMe that will be able to help out his family. But in more positive news, I've been keeping you updated with the story of Bath City's Alex Fletcher, who was seriously injured in a game a few months ago. Well, after making a full recovery, he made an appearance at Bath City for the first time since the injury. It wasn't obviously to play, he just came out to greet the fans, but obviously this is a massive step realistically in his recovery, and hopefully we'll see him back playing very soon. That though is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.